Welcome to a Lasella Lightworkers podcast, where we discuss the power of the human mind, the subconscious, the law of attraction, and becoming a conscious creator of your own reality. I chat with awakened souls and alternative businesses about ascension, life, love, and healing. Navigate with us for tools and insights on your spiritual path to truly understanding you. Welcome to a Lasella Lightworkers podcast. On this episode, I'm going to be discussing the topic of self-love. Now, this is a solo pod. It's just me on my own. I'm your host, Serena, founder of the Lasella Lightworker podcast, and of course, Subliminals.com. Now, self-love is such a broad term. It's used so frequently, for example, after a breakup as the thing that needs to be fixed. So for the single person, the advice so often given, which is such a cliche, aside from there are plenty more fish in the sea, is you have to love yourself first. Now, when you're going through a breakup, by the way, this is the last thing that you want to hear as advice, and no, it doesn't help. But now, having been single for a few years, I began to wonder, what does this actually really mean? Self-love. To love yourself. People are so quick to throw this term around, and yet when questioned, they all have a different answer. Because the perception of self-love differs from person to person. Also, the reason that you have to love yourself first before anyone else can love you is so untrue is because everyone's all on their different journeys. And I witness so many people in relationships who are still wounded, not healed, and they truly do not fully love themselves. And yet they have long-term partners and they're married with children. So when spiritual teachers, coaches, the positive quotes, and these self-help books all say, love yourself, and then don't really give you a specific how-to guide or really guidance that actually works, it can become frustrating. It's just another book that you read that doesn't work, another method that gets no results. And it is said so flippantly. It's like a simple fix. Well, duh, just love yourself. Okay, wow, sorry, I hadn't thought of that before. But this is not going to be a single girl podcast, because this is about self-love for you. Loving you, whether you're single, married, taken, divorced, or widowed. Truly loving yourself as an individual right now, and some practical actions to try. Now, I've been studying this subject for a few months now because I had been on a bit of a huge downward self-loathing spiral, and I've spent many hours reading books. I've listened to podcasts, audibles, I've asked my peers, and I'm going to share with you some of the findings and my own personal experiences, but most of this isn't going to surprise you, but some of it maybe will. I've come to realise, for some, self-love means just the body, taking care of it, going to the gym, exercising, eating healthy foods, taking supplements, protein powders, building muscle, being disciplined, right? Treating the body as a temple. They see this as the greatest form of self-love, and that's it. And yes, it makes you feel good in the moment after the good endorphins, and it distracts the mind. And yet, I observe a lot of these people with whom their ego runs riot, not having addressed any root cause emotions or even their soul's calling. And they've kind of thrown themselves into building this fabulous, toned, sculpted body, often bypassing their emotions, and their minds just still seem to be in hell. So still with the inner negative dialogue. So is that self-love truly? Or is there more to it? Some say it's about embodying the gender energy body they're in. So, for example, the masculine would be in their warrior energy, being strong, chopping wood on his purpose, running, building testosterone or building their empire. Becoming a success is self-love to them. The feminine perhaps may be embracing their goddess energy, perhaps dancing, flowing, being more graceful, creative, and touching the body and nurturing it with massage or womb massage. Or even to be a mother. To them, this is the ultimate way to experience self-love or even unconditional love. A lot of spiritual feminines have advised me, for example, to put some music on, get naked, and just dance in front of the mirror, to observe, to love, to touch my body, and to be in self-love of me. I legit could not think of anything worse to do or more ick, and I would actually really struggle with this practice, but by all means, if this sounds like a bit of you, give it a go. For others, this is about your connection to God. Often people say, big breakups happen to connect you back to your true self, to lead you home to the creator, to the divine, the universe, the God, the generator, operator, destroyer that resides within you. And they say that there's no greater love than this, and this is all that matters. They believe that all we have to do is become spiritual, meditate, and connect to that love, to God's love for you. And that we don't need the love of another. And they often become monks or priests and praying, devoting their love to God. And some people even become asexual. Some say it's an affirmation with embodiment to say, I love myself, whilst tapping certain parts of the body. So they're anchors in, so the EFT tapping, the emotional freedom technique. For some, self-love is merely self-pleasuring, or pleasure with another for their own benefit, to love themselves, feeding off of the love of others. When we know, in fact, when you look into the eyes of another, what you truly see staring back is the divine within you. It's reflected back to you. For others, self-love means to have a nice hot bubble bath, a face mask, maybe a massage or a spa day. And for some, self-love is to drink beer and relax with friends, maybe go fishing or play golf. It seems that everyone has their own idea of what self-love is to them, none of them being wrong. You see, I think there is truth in all of these, but it's not just one of these practices that truly embodies self-love. The same way we hear people say they are healed is the same to me as when people say, I love myself. I don't believe this is something that we truly acquire. Perhaps we have a taste of it, but it's a daily constant, an ongoing practice, a journey, a lifetime journey even, that has to be implemented always. For example, we sleep 8 hours a night and our brains reset again in the morning. And then when we wake up, we have to do it all again. We have to drink water, we have to move our bodies, nourish it, meditate, connect. It's a constant, never-ending journey. And I don't think self-love is something that you ever get to. I believe that this is a journey always, a lot like healing. A lifetime's work, just like everything else that we have to do as humans. So let's get personal. I personally have really struggled with body image, self-love and self-loathing. Now, this is a spiral for as long as I can remember. I have been an observer now as someone who has never truly accepted my human body, never truly loved it. Always having this kind of love-hate relationship and feeling very insecure. There's not one part of my body that I've ever truly loved or admired, and I share this truth not to gain your empathy or attention, but to acknowledge perhaps there are others like me. I find the whole human experience to be frankly gross, and body parts and body functions highly embarrassing, even to the point of eating in public. And I have struggled with my body image and body weight since I can remember. From the age of 4 to 21, I was a dancer. And I had a very extreme, unhealthy relationship with exercise and food. I used to starve myself at school and college, and to the point I would nearly pass out, and at 4 p.m. I'd get home and have some cheese. Thus, you can imagine years of this caused serious damage and hormone imbalances, and my metabolism to not fully function properly. I was also brought up as a vegetarian, never eaten meat my whole life, and in the 80s in the UK there was no choice, so very restrictive foods. And I was always feeling like I was the weird one at school that was like, I think it added to my trauma. I remember going around friends' houses after school only for them to be baffled as to what they could feed me, so I would often go without, or be given like a plain plate of spaghetti with ketchup. So this kind of created a deep-rooted feeling that I was not deserving of these basic things, and it kind of felt like a punishment. But of course, with the knowledge I now have, I know this is indeed a mix of, my soul's mission and learning. One of my biggest life lessons is to learn the balance, is to not be extreme all or nothing, to just have one biscuit with your cup of tea and not eat the whole packet. For example, I was a millennial born in the 80s, and from a body perspective, I was surrounded as a teenager in the 90s by this size zero culture, with the TV shows that would fat shame everyone. And if you were not a skinny supermodel, size zero like Kate Moss, you were in fact disgusting. Unluckily for me, I have always had curves, big wide hips, big bottom, big chest, short stumpy fingers and toes. Genetically, I was always the wrong size for clothing, fashion and society. So they didn't really cater for us back then, and the figures that are adored now were simply disgusting back then. And so my self-loathing continued. So we have to understand that this type of social conditioning and programming absolutely affects us on a deep subconscious level. It affects how we view ourselves, what actions we take, and how we love ourselves now. Most of us are literal wounded children walking around in adult bodies, taking actions, reacting to things that come from a small childhood programming or experience. Your upbringing and the social environment all affects you. If you had post-war parents or even religious parents or just traumatized parents, they may have been ever so strict and perhaps not shown you love or empathy. Perhaps you had an overbearing mother who suffocated you with love and that caused you to retreat, or a father who you were scared of that you had to make proud. Perhaps you had parents who showed you tough love, thinking this is what you needed. Hence, you never felt good enough for love, and you've never been shown how to love yourself. Remember that your parents were just doing the best they could, with the knowledge that they had, and they are human too. But because they don't teach you this in school, how to truly detach and master self-love regardless of upbringing, if you had a mother or father, good or bad, or didn't, it's something that we have to kind of learn the hard way, isn't it? And this is so often reflected to us in unhealthy relationships, trauma, or never even finding love, being unlucky in love. And so, on a mission to truly understand all of this, I became a mind coach, a life coach, obsessed with the mind, the conscious mind, the rational part, the subconscious, the part that has many layers like an onion, the part that's responsible for the patterns and behaviours that you can't stop doing and you can't start doing, which is, by the way, 99.9% of the subconscious is responsible. So this is why I trained as a hypnotist, to truly understand and dissect the mind, to why it does what it does, and to observe my clients. And of course, my biggest client is myself. The inner standing and evolution of this phenomenon, and as an individual, seems to be a lifetime's work though. And I guess my soul story was, I was always destined to have some sort of eating disorder or be unhealthy and overweight and not to love myself and truly disassociated with my body so that I could fix this and truly master self-love, acceptance, and unconditional love of self. Now, we are not victims to it, but with awareness, we do have a duty of acknowledgement and consciousness to change it. The saying goes, you are not responsible for the programming you received in childhood, but as an adult, you are 100% responsible for fixing it. So what happens if we don't change? If we don't practice self-love, our bodies start to get neglected. Our minds start to spiral. They take over. We can actually become addicted to the lower vibrational patterns. We may start to get anxieties, disorders, develop addictions, and not know where to go. Now, trust me, I know I have lived here for a very long time. And it's easier for the mind to create a neural pathway that it knows that's toxic, even if it's wrong and not good for us, because it would rather be safe and know the pain. So the up and down of this roller coaster spiral of self-loathing continues. And you can never quite truly master self-love until you break the patterns, interrupt the patterns. And how do we do this? Repetition. You also have to believe that things will get better. You have to have hope. And therefore comes a breakthrough at some point, a turning point of growth and change. Now, breakthroughs come often after a period of turbulent times, of cycles, karma, old patterns of having had enough. Sometimes we're forced into these breakthroughs, though, through illness, dis-ease, or sickness. Not always of ourselves, but sometimes of close loved ones. And it's like a wake-up call. For me, it's when my ex left me, pulling the carpet from underneath my feet, causing my heart to break. I couldn't eat. I was numb. I found myself going to the gym every single day to shift the anger, to feel something, to get out of the numbness with the intention of getting back at him, to show him. I'll show him. And the fuel was amazing. I even remember saying to a fellow heartbroken guy at a bar that I met once, I said, I wish I could bottle this feeling of heartbreak up and use it as fuel. For when I no longer feel motivated, I can take a sip. But I wasn't truly loving myself then, and I was feeling totally rejected and self-loathing, forcing myself to do these things. It was motivation, but not for the right reasons, and definitely not of self-love. And one thing I do know is that obesity and self-love do not go together. And I tie in my self-love research with my body image and weight and being single, because that is indeed one of my limiting beliefs, that the only reason I'm single is because I'm fat, and the only reason I'm fat is because I don't love myself. And so the cycle continues. So this practice of loving yourself is actually just putting yourself first. It's actually just accepting where you are and making the decision that you want to change it, to own it. For many years, I was actually in denial of what I am and where I was. And I'm always so quick to help others and attend to others' needs before my own. So, being overweight is my own personal issue, but for some of you, perhaps you do eat healthy, you already go to the gym, or you are a healthy weight already, but you still do not love yourself. Or perhaps you've lost the weight and you're now a happy, healthy weight, and you're slim, but you just don't like the way you look. Never have done. The practical tips in this podcast will help you to become more confident and to be kinder to you. Perhaps you self-sacrifice, not putting yourself before others. A lot of hypnosis clients we see come to us with things like autoimmune diseases, depression, anxieties, and this is often tied to the root cause of them giving so much to others before themselves. Perhaps you are a busy parent and putting your children's needs before your own, or even an animal parent. I know a lot of millennials like me who are unmarried and have no kids and opted for the fur babies instead, right? Often these become more important in our lives than ourselves. And these animals end up taking priority of something that we have to care for over our own well-being. But ultimately, if you are putting someone's needs first before your own and being unkind to yourself in any way, then you are not mastering self-love. So I invite you to be kinder to you and to give yourself a little grace, to consider being what you perceive as selfish, and to put your needs first. My favourite saying to all of my life coaching clients is, you cannot fill from an empty cup. So please first fill your own cup until it is overflowing. Then you can begin to share this with others. So when it comes to self-love, there is of course lots of science and research behind all of this. A study was actually done in a UK university on how you can improve your life and truly master self-love. They studied everything from diet to gratitude, to meditating, to regular exercise, to seeing your family, friends, connections. But the single most effective behaviour change was just being kinder to yourself. And you would not believe how mean people are to themselves all day, every day. How self-critical, how judgmental we are. It's one of the least practiced self-practice exercises, being kinder to you. And it seems to be the root cause of everything and the answer to everything. You have to learn to love and accept yourself. And the habit of being kinder to yourself is one of the most effective human beings can practice. So this is observing that inner dialogue and interrupting the subconscious patterns, the voice inside your head, that subconscious. So what would this actually look like? What actions can we take? Firstly, making yourself a priority. Make yourself your own personal project. You are the most important thing that's ever going to happen in your life. You were born alone. You're going to die alone. Your soul is a solo mission. Yes, we experience life with others, but this is about you. Make you your mission. Make you your lifetime's work. Make you your project, a self-love mastery. So keep it simple. Even if you think you hate yourself, everything about yourself, find one small thing. And it might just be, I like my hair colour right now. I like my haircut or style. I like one of my eyes. I like the way I say a particular word. I like my hands, arms, my skills. I like that I can walk. I like that I can open my eyes today. Start with the small things which become small wins and make this a habit every day. Find one thing and focus on it. Try and get into the feeling of it. Recognize it, embrace it. Another thing to try would be to incorporate the Louise Hay Mirror method of saying every single day, 300 times a day by the way, I love and accept myself. I love and accept myself. I love and accept myself. I love and accept myself 300 times. Now, 300 times a day may seem like a lot, but trust me, the amount of times you've probably looked in the mirror and not liked a particular part of yourself, and that inner dialogue has been unkind or judgmental towards you or criticised you, is far greater than 300 times. Try this every day for 30 days. 45 days, push it, keep going until it becomes a habit, and continue it until you start to feel it and believe it and to embody it. Perhaps incorporate some of the above practices to be kinder to you too. Another method that my fitness coach recommended was to imagine. So he got me to try the Dr. Joe Dispenza, Tuning into New Potentials guided meditation. This allows you to step into the quantum realm and imagine what it would be like to have those things, to love yourself, to love your body, and to live life in that incredible body. then it really gets you into the feeling of it. And this actually sends a signal to the universe, and it has to respond to your emotions, and it begins to move things into your physical reality to allow that to manifest. And I find myself, after doing this one, very positive about my day. I find myself taking actions I wouldn't usually do, like going for a nice walk or smiling at myself. And I even ended up in the gym car park, and I had no idea how I got there. Because often where we go wrong in our day when it comes to the positive thinking, truly making lasting changes, is that you can learn a new method, and if you're like me, you're often really juiced, excited to try it. Perhaps you'll try it for a few days, maybe even a week, and then the excitement wanes and we lose our inspiration and our motivation, and then we slip back into the old patterns. So it's the inner dialogue and those questions that you ask yourself that keeps you on track. Now, those questions that we ask ourselves every day actually shape what we do. And this is why I am so passionate about my subliminals. Because when you listen to them, they actually are overriding the negative self-talk and replacing it with a positive self-talk and self-love affirmations. It's a brand new script. So what we are doing is taking out the old CD, scratching it and putting in the new one, a new program. So you can download and buy my self-love subliminal audio meditations from my shop page on my website, soulsubliminals.com. Now, listening to that audio meditation for just 21 days will make a positive impact and allow you to feel better in the moment. Now, my dad is also an empowerment coach, and he teaches his clients to replace the questions that we ask ourselves all day long. A good one he came up with for his clients was, he says, often we ask ourselves throughout the day, how do I feel about that? And how do I feel about that? And how do I feel? And how does that make me feel? And how do I feel about that? He says that question actually keeps you in hell. What we need to be asking instead is, so this is one to try, how do I want to feel? How would I like to feel about that? How do I want to feel? And that's a powerful one to try. This realization is that your whole life is probably being guided by the wrong internal voice and the wrong question. But Teal Swan is one of my favourite spiritual coaches. My dad actually started listening to her about 10 years ago and introduced me to her work. She has, in my opinion, truly connected the dots with this. And she shows us the most amazing, simple practice of self-love, unconditional love, surrender, trusting your intuition, and also a shortcut to enlightenment. And it's also a direct line to your higher self. And she says that if you truly understand the truth of this universe's oneness, then actually you can't practice loving anything without simultaneously loving yourself. So every single spiritual practice is self-love. But to learn to love everything that is, which is to learn true unconditional love, is to learn how to unconditionally love yourself. And she says that when people say, like the mantras from earlier, I love myself, it's not true. Because they're very detached from that. And you can actually feel an emotional withdrawal from these words because it's not the truth. So she does contradict a lot of the self-help books here, but I understand why. So the Teal Swan method is, for 1 whole year of your life, you live this according just to one question, which is, what would someone who loves themselves do? What would someone who loves themselves do? She says this would be your mantra in every moment of every day for 365 days. Now, I recommended adding this as a screensaver on your phone or a post-it on your fridge. And that's it. That's the practice. And she says this practice by saying, what would someone who loves themselves do? Anytime you ask this question, the answer will come to you immediately from your higher self, that intuition. Now trust it and do it. Do not doubt it and do not ask why. Now, if you ask this question and you get a fear-based answer or a doubt or a low or negative feeling, then this is ego and this is the mind and it's tricking you maybe. But if you ask this question and you get a clear, loving, positive, feel-good, joyful, blissful, or even neutral response, this is your higher self. Trust it. Do it. Take the action it advises or the advice it gives for each decision. And of course, this can be for absolutely everything. She says from, ask it from making decisions to what will you eat that day, to a big decision in life, love, or business. Even to the little things of, should I go left or right at the roundabout? Try it every day for 365 days. So what have I found so far since practicing this method of saying all day, every day, as much as I can remember, what would someone who loves themselves do? As I relate this self-love to my body, loving my vessel I'm in, no matter my shape, weight, etc., just wanting to be healthy and wanting to make changes, I observe that I am already making more conscious choices. And by asking this question as someone who loves themselves, damn right I'm putting myself first before others. I am making sure I'm getting enough sleep and food prepping for myself. I am ensuring that my needs are met before others. I've also set some new boundaries in my life, in my personal life, which is very interesting. And I find myself to be stepping into this sovereign archetype, my queen energy. I will cover archetypes of the personality in a separate life coaching podcast, but just a feedback to you. And I've noticed that as you begin to truly love yourself fully and unconditionally, you can of course start to love others more fully, more unconditionally. When you're kinder to you, this allows you to take time for you. So as I say these words to you, I mirror them back to me. Know that you are worthy of love. You are worthy of self-love. And once you master this daily, this ongoing process, things become easier, more joyful, more fun, more magical. It's easier to work out and eat right when you're loving yourself. You have more energy, more inspiration, more creation to do things when you love yourself. Life begins to flow. You can spend more time with your kids, your grandkids, get on your purpose, sleep better, feel more happier. Go enjoy that new piece of clothing because you love yourself. This vessel, this body, you only get one of these in this lifetime and you do have to look after it. This ensures that you make the most of your human experience. So get to your why. Figure out what your compelling future looks like, even if that is getting out of bed tomorrow, or perhaps it's 1 year from now that you are running that marathon. What would someone who loves themselves truly do? Would they be kinder to themselves? Would they be less critical? Find something that you really like about you, even if it is just for today. Find one small thing, because that is a win. I promise I will, because I'm not giving up. And this podcast will be a reminder to help others, but to truly help myself onto this journey of self-love, of unconditional love, and a step closer to enlightenment.